All right, welcome to the show, y'all. Got a lot of awesome stuff for you today. Tonight, we have the live stream, State of the Union live stream. We'll be doing it right here on this channel. Going to be reacting in real time to Joe Biden. Going to do a little bit of a pre-show, a little bit of a post-show, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of fun. All that is something I'm looking forward to. So hang in there just for that. Oh, look at this. I look like I'm on, what was the show with Tim Allen and Al Borland? I think that was his character's name in the show. Tool Time? No, Home Improvement. Home Improvement. I look like I'm from the show Home Improvement. I look sort of like a lumberjack or something with this shirt. Not gonna lie, though, kind of feeling it. All right, so today, what am I going to talk to you about? Trump comes out and gives a super creepy speech about how he wants to ban transgender ideology. We're going to break that down. We also have the good liars talking to some folks who want to ban critical race theory, and they're going to tell you what they think critical race theory is, and it is amazing. Then we have Ron DeSantis is kicking millions of people off of healthcare. Seems like something that's an important story, which will be completely ignored by every major media outlet. They'll focus on, whatever culture war stuff is going on over there now. And then the Koch network jumps in to the 2024 Republican primary, and our big wet boy is not going to be happy about it. He's not going to be happy at all, because they are basically saying, we are never Trump. And guys, can't stress this enough, they have a lot of money. And so that actually might hurt his chances, but we'll see just how much of a factor the money is, because with presidential elections, there's a lot of free media anyway, so the money maybe has a little bit less of an effect as it does on the the Senate level or the House of Representatives level. Anyway, all right, let's go ahead and dive into it here. So Michael Knowles, right-wing guy, you all know him. He's from the Daily Wire. He tweeted the following: Trump is calling to outlaw transgender ideology, not just for little kids, not just in classrooms or certain federal programs, at every level. This is an excellent development, and other potential 2024 candidates should follow suit. So look, let's just focus on what Michael Knowles is saying here for a second. Excuse me. We're going to play the Trump thing in a second as well. But he says Trump is calling to outlaw transgender ideology, not just for little kids. So I would love to ask Michael this follow-up question. Do you think that a transition surgery, or even just like hormones and other treatments, do you think that should be banned even for adults? So adults shouldn't be able to choose to live as the other gender. Do you believe that? Look, I'd love for these people to come out and admit it. Now, we know Matt Walsh has already come out and admitted that. Look, to his credit. Because a lot of these guys play hide the ball with what they really believe. Originally, it's all about the kids, bro. We can't have kids being trans. But then it became, Matt Walsh said it on Twitter, no, I think this surgery should be banned completely for everybody. Okay, well, again, don't ever pretend like you're in favor of freedom ever again. Now, to be fair to Matt Walsh, he did a video responding to me on a different issue, and he came out and said, I don't think freedom is the highest value, so yeah, I don't really care all that much about freedom. Hey, sweet. Great, thank you for being honest. We appreciate that. I do care about that. So, just something to keep in mind here. So, here we go. Let's see what Trump had to say about the issue. This is him trying to surf the wave of a culture war issue, trying to get in on the Ron DeSantis game, a game that DeSantis to this point has been eating his lunch at. Let's go.
The left-wing gender insanity being pushed on our children is an act of child abuse. Very simple. Here's my plan to stop the chemical, physical, and emotional mutilation of our youth. On day one, I will revoke Joe Biden's cruel policies on so-called gender-affirming care. Ridiculous. A process that includes giving kids puberty blockers, mutating their physical appearance, and ultimately performing surgery on minor children. Can you believe this? All right,
let me just pause here to say that doesn't happen. The performing like the hard transition surgery, like a sex change surgery, that doesn't happen with minors. It doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. They wait until they're a little older to do a hard transition. It is the case that with some young people, they do use puberty blockers or they do use hormones in some instances. And they will, in some cases, do the double mastectomy, but they never do the, like, bottom surgery for kids. Now, we'll get into the specifics in a little bit. Hey, what do you think is fair? What's not fair? At what age should you be allowed to? How should we determine this? We'll get into all that in a second, but just quick fact check on Trump. The idea that they're doing, like, the bottom surgery on kids is not a thing. That's not a thing.
A new executive order instructing every federal agency to cease all programs that promote the concept of sex and gender transition at any age. I will then ask Congress...
At any age? At any age. So wait, an adult shouldn't be able to transition? A trans adult who says, my whole life I've been living in the wrong body, I was born biologically male, but I feel female, at any age, so they should never be able to do that, ever? They should never be able to take hormones, never be able to get a surgery, ever? Don't tell me that's not extreme. Do not tell me that's not extreme. And don't tell me that's not deeply anti-freedom.
To permanently stop federal taxpayer dollars from being used to promote or pay for these procedures and pass a law prohibiting child sexual mutilation in all 50 states. It'll go very quickly. I will declare that any hospital or healthcare provider that participates in the chemical or physical mutilation of minor youth will no longer meet federal health and safety standards for Medicaid and Medicare and will be terminated from the program immediately. Furthermore, I will support the creation of a private right of action for victims to sue doctors who have unforgivably performed these procedures on minor children. The Department of Justice will investigate Big Pharma and the big hospital networks to determine whether they have deliberately covered up horrific long-term side effects of sex transitions in order to get rich at the expense of vulnerable patients, in this case, very vulnerable. We will also investigate whether Big Pharma or others have illegally marketed hormones and puberty blockers, which are in no way licensed or approved for this use. My Department of Education will inform states and...
That's actually not true. The hormones and puberty blockers thing, they are allowed to be used for this specifically. Now, again, we'll get into in a second. What should the rules be? What do the experts say? What should the process be to determine when somebody gets to transition or at least start transitioning and take some sort of treatment? But just know what he's talking about here. I think Michael Knowles is summing it up fairly, that he's like, we got to stop all of this stuff. All of it. So let's crack down on trans issues, but not just for children, also for adults. They want to try to make it so that the environment is too scary and there's too much pressure for somebody to do a surgery or do procedures or do treatment, even for adults.
School districts, that if any teacher or school official suggests to a child that they could be trapped in the wrong body, they will be faced with severe consequences, including potential civil rights violations for sex discrimination and the elimination of federal funding. As part of our new credentialing body for teachers, we will promote positive education about the nuclear family, the roles of mothers and fathers, and celebrate.
So on that point, now you're going from anti-trans stuff to subtle anti-gay stuff. We're going to promote the nuclear family, the importance of mothers and fathers. So look, it's all going to come back to what they actually believe, which is tradition, leave it to Beaver style family, one mother, one father, white picket fence, the dog, all that stuff. And this is how they go way, way, way too far. And this is what, like, we saw it in Florida with Ron DeSantis and the law he passed there. When it was actually implemented, we had teachers who weren't even allowed to wear rainbow colors. We had gay teachers who couldn't put a picture on their desk of them with their spouse. So, ironically, they are the authoritarians as they fearmonger about the left being super authoritarian.
Celebrating rather than erasing the things that make men and women different and unique. I will ask Congress to pass a bill establishing that the only genders recognized by the United States government are male and female, and they are assigned at birth.
So again, this is all like, so do you deny transness is even a thing for adults? So, all right, look, let's talk about this a little bit. There's actually disagreement among experts about, hey, what should the process be and what should the rules be when it comes to dealing with trans youth? And I understand that there's disagreement and debate, and I think it's good and important and right that experts do debate it, and they have different rules and different lines and different procedures. The general way it works in the US right now is they don't do the bottom surgery, they don't do the hard surgeries until they're older. But when they're younger, there are instances of you can give puberty blockers until they really know, hey, is this what I want to do? Or you give some hormone treatment. Or again, the furthest they'll go for young ones is, you know, the in some circumstances, very small percentage, but the mastectomies. Now, Matt Walsh was recently on Rogan's show, and he said, like, this has happened to millions of kids or something like that. And then Jamie looked it up, and it happened to literally like 4,000 total. So there's a big gap between like what they're pretending is going on and what is actually going on. But it is the question is actually a difficult question when it comes to young kids. So Rogan likes to tell this story, and it's really interesting because I've had this experience too, where he said, I have a neighbor, the neighbors have a kid, the kid is clearly gay. And he used to say, you know, the kid was however old, 5, 6, 7 years old, and it was very obvious that the kid was gay. And so in a situation like that, you look at it and you go, yeah, the kid's gay. There's going to be no teaching it out of him. There's going to be no, you know, hey, we're going to force you to like the other sex or whatever. That's just who the kid is. There's also going to be instances of young kids like that who are trans. They are just trans, right? They know, they already have those feelings of gender dysmorphia from a young age. And so you want to try to set up a system where people who do have the gender dysmorphia, people who are trans, can get the treatment that they need while also preventing any sort of false positives, right? Where somebody might feel like I want to do this, but then they actually don't want to do it. But to be fair, you go to what's called the detransition rate to determine, hey, how much are people missing the mark here? And the detransition rate is like 1%, right? And even if it was as high as like 5%, you would still be doing like a pretty good job making sure the only people who get any sort of surgical intervention are the right ones who need it. So, look, I tend to think that the expert community has generally handled this properly, right? So there's a process, there's therapy, there's discussions, there's a way to determine, hey, is this really you? Is this really what you want? And then only after those benchmarks have been met, it's like, okay, we'll allow it. And so I understand some people who say there should be a line of 16 years old or whatever, and you determine from there. The only issue with that is, what if you have somebody who's really trans, and it's been clear since they were 5, 6, 7 years old or whatever, and then you tell them, like, you can't even take puberty blockers, and so you have to, if you're, let's say, you are born biologically male, you want to be female, but if you go through puberty as a male, then it makes it much more harder to pass as a female later on. In that circumstance, what do? You just say, hey, you can't take anything at all until you're already through puberty as a man. And then you can, when you're old enough to decide, okay, now I'm going to take the hormones. Now I'm going to try to get some surgeries. Now I'm going to try to be more feminine, when you could have been more feminine presenting if you never went through that male puberty in the first place. See what I'm saying? So it gets tricky, man. It gets tricky. But with what Trump is saying here, this is just pure demagoguery. This is like not even just, hey, we're against any sort of surgery for young people. Again, hard surgeries don't happen for young people. Certainly bottom surgeries don't happen for young people. It goes from that to, like, he very clearly states he's against all transness there. So even for adults, they shouldn't be able to get any sort of surgery or any sort of treatment on this front. That's just a denial of the existence of trans people. And this reminds me of the old school anti-gay stuff, when there was a time when people would act like, no, gayness is a choice. So it's not really a thing. It's a choice. So anybody could choose not to be gay. So in theory, 100% of the people could be heterosexual. That's just not true. Eventually, we're going to learn there's some sort of trans gene or something, and it's going to be, no, some people are just trans. They're born biologically one thing, they feel like they're the other thing, and so they have to live their life expressing that. If they don't, then they're going to be absolutely miserable. There's going to be a misalignment. I always think, like, what if I was forced as a guy who feels like a guy, if I was forced to present as the opposite everywhere I went? I was forced at gunpoint to put on a dress and put on lipstick and put on long hair and present super feminine. I would feel ridiculous. I'd feel terrible out in public because it doesn't match up with how I feel like I am. You know what I'm saying? So But anyway, the gist of this whole story here is these guys are waging an all-out war on trans people. That's what it is. This is an all-out war on trans people. There's no two ways about it. None. And while there's reasonable debate and discussion among good faith experts about what should the rules be, what should the process be, at what age should you be allowed to get various surgeries and whatnot and various treatments, I think all that's fair game. I think all that's fine and dandy. But now you have a situation where they're not just saying hard and fast rule, I think it should be this line, 18 years old or whatever, and then from then on you can make the decision. They're very clearly saying this isn't a thing and we want to wage a war on it and stop it, even for adults. And that to me is absolutely crazy, you know? That to me is crazy, especially when you look at a situation where the number of trans people is so low and the detransition rate is so low, which leads you to believe that whatever the rough outline of the rules are now, it's actually kind of working, right? It's actually kind of working. And so that's an argument to sort of keep it roughly in the same vein as it is now. But they don't want to do that. They want to crack down. They want to criminalize it. They want to make sure no doctor ever gives these treatments or gives these surgeries or whatever, even for adults. And that's a scary situation. And understand this is all the Republicans have, right? All they have is culture war garbage. Let me distract you with the culture war stuff, because what's Trump going to do? He's going to cut taxes for corporations again. He's going to cut taxes for billionaires and millionaires again. He's going to continue the military-industrial complex unabated. He's going to bail out Wall Street. He's going to deregulate. Like, it's all the same crap. And so they try to surf right-wing culture war outrage to get into the White House. But I don't think this trans stuff is really going to land, because you had Republicans try to do some of this stuff leading into the midterms, and it just didn't work. It just didn't work, you know? And I struggle just to understand people who, like, they really have a hard time conceiving of transness as a thing, even though it's existed throughout history. Like somebody born one thing, but they feel like they're the other thing, and so they have to reconcile that. They act like that's like an absurd thing when it's not. And it's not. I'm sure that there are even examples of kids who, yeah, the kid is just trans, right? You don't want to ever misdiagnose or whatever, of course, but that's why they don't do the hard surgeries on the kids, right? And that's why there is a process and there is a procedure and there is a way to determine and surmise, hey, is this the right way to go? But they're not interested in any of that. They're interested in being demagogues and cracking down on transness across the board. And it ain't pretty, man. That's for sure. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.